Chapter 6. Why are we labeling and why do we invent values? Why do we label everything we experience by sight or thought? It is because we invent a value for literally everything we can see or think of. Then why do we hold on to the idea of value to begin with? It is because we tend to take the experience of separation and opposites too seriously. We think it is actually real. By separation I mean that when I see a tree standing somewhere I would think of it as a separate object from myself, my body. By opposites I mean literally all pros and cons we can think of, like light and dark, chaos and order, good and evil, up and down, left and right, etc. But while we take the ideas that everything is separated and opposite of at least something else too seriously, causing us to believe it's true, it is actually all an illusion. It is an illusion simply because separation and opposites don't exist at all. So if these don't exist, then why do we still hold on to values? Well, because our tiny minds are wired in a way that we simply experience everything being separated in a bigger picture, and because it makes us feel secure. Another reason is to identify everything, seeing everything around us, including each other, as having separate identities. The funny thing is, that while we created all these illusions ourselves without even being aware of that, we actually observe them to come to a certain conclusion. And all these conclusions lead only to more research, because none of these conclusions are definite. The reason is because all conclusions are based on illusions, and that is the only conclusion one can make ultimately. So what is the reason of researching and discovering if everything we try to define is an illusion itself? Well, it is so we as humans, the lower selves, can learn to experience ultimately how and what it is to become more complete and one with everything again. Same goes for the spirits, the higher selves, which we are more. Only for the higher selves it goes to a lesser degree. So we can learn and learn all the way. A human never stops learning as long as it is. While we learn continuously, we never really think truly objectively and analytically, because everything is relative, including our way of thinking. That is also a reason why opposites cannot even possibly exist, even if this was real. And when two or more persons seem to see the same thing, each of them always sees it slightly different from how the others see it, according to each person's way of thinking. That is why statistics as zeros and ones don't exist at all as well. Physicists claim to know how we can measure, yet the zeros and ones they use for everything are only relative and ultimately mere illusions. So basically they are trying to measure illusions based on illusions. How convenient. Then there are quantum physicists who are more close to discovering truth than just physicists by visual observation regarding the domain of the lower self. But in the end every human tends to come to a conclusion, and then the cycle of creating an illusion and forming a conclusion continues. That is how the human mind works. What might also be interesting, is that because of this all humans label according to what they think is valuable in a certain way. This labeling, or believing if you want to call it that way, is because humans are religious. Every human on this planet is religious, but only in his or her own way of understanding. Therefore religion, as an organized religion, doesn't exist, not even really as an illusion, so to speak. So religion literally means a personal way of perception. People who don't seem to understand this message might argue against the fact that everyone is religious because so-called atheism and anti-theism aren't religions. Yes, while all forms of theism are religions, atheism and anti-theism are not. But atheism and anti-theism are still religious simply because these labels are invented by humans. Any religious human who starts whatever always ends religious, because that is the effect of religion. And all humans are religious. Now, religion is flawed as it is merely an individual's way of perception, because we try to understand and we think it gives us security, but all of this is always relative in the truth. This doesn't mean, however, that religion is wrong by any means, because there is no right or wrong, as these are all illusions as I described above. And the illusions manifest themselves so we can learn as we are meant to as humans. Ultimately only truth exists, which is eternal peace, as I described in my previous chapters. In peace everything exists, and nothing is or can be separated from or opposite of it.